Okay, you can begin.
So, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Anika George, and my colleagues are Jade Sinclair and Liana Mirage. Today, we are going to be presenting on Chapter 8 Understanding Complex Organizations. The topics to be presented are organization as a complex system, organizational leadership, organizational structure, mission, vision, and core values, culture, organizational networks, life cycle of the organization, virtuality and impact of technology, and the new paradigm leadership in conventional paradigm cultures. So before we start, let's do a little recap. In our previous lectures, would have touched on groups. Anyone remember? Yes? You still there?
No,
Oh, you
please
remember
remind me.
they talked about groups? So remember they would have touched on group structure, the purpose,
I
the
missed
time,
group.
and the
I missed
involvement.
group. So if you can.
Yes, I would remember. That was my group.
Oh, okay, very good. Thank
Sorry,
you so much, Selena.
sorry,
Thank
Selena, but I missed that session.
Would you
Alex,
just
it
a little bit? So, if you were to watch from our pictures that we have posted there, on the picture on the left, what are the key differences that you can see from the picture on the left and the picture on the right? Anyone? Don't rush.
one has a defined leaner, one does not.
Right, right. So, and the other stuff we could see is like the mainly the size and the structure. So when we look at the picture on the left, we can see that persons are basically, they're coming together. There's a little bit of person, about four persons compared to the picture on the right. The picture on the right looks like, some sort of chain of command. They have some sort of leader. So let's move on to our next one. So let's give a definition of basically of what is groups versus organization. Right. So what is a group? A group is characterized as a number of individuals located close together to achieve a common purpose. Whilst an organization can have many groups, it comprises of more than about 20 persons. The interactions are continuous. They are there to achieve a common goal. And with the new normal, our interactions, basically we have a lot of more virtual meetings, instead of working and working at people to work at home. So let's give some examples of organizations. So some of the organization examples, as we mentioned, there are plenty of them in Trinidad. Let's touch on COSAD. Yes, COSAD is the organization because basically, it comprises of a number of persons, the students, the lecturers, the admin staff, and all of them they are to achieve a common goal. What is the common goal? It's basically the betterment of the students. So the characteristics of an organization. Basically, the characteristics, it comprises of smaller groups. So when we talk about who in characteristics, we are referring to the participants. How much persons are really in the organization? When we refer to what, it refers to the collection of individuals. When we refer to when, it refers to the interaction and how is the structure and why is the purpose. Other characteristics are its structure. Basically, it shows how much departments, each one assigned to a specific task. There are a number of employees that are expected to work in the organization. They're working towards a common goal. And, it looks like sometimes have some sort of teamwork. Might have a little bit of people there, but that's fine. And, communication and rules of organization to be adhered to. So, how are we going so far, everybody? We good? Everybody hearing me? Are we good so far, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
no
Yeah.
complaint.
Good. So let's move on to the next part of organization.
One
You
second,
always
hey,
need
Jay.
something.
Jay, 1 second, 1 second. I find it speeding a little bit,
You find a speed in? Oh gosh, well, I must slow down.
Yeah, I actually, look at most stuff at 1.25 when I looking at it, but I find it speeding.
Okay, well, let me slow down now. You tell me if
Yeah,
I
that'd be nice. That'd be nice. I'm trying to take a little notes here too. You know what I mean?
I will share my notes with you when I finish, please, man. So let me
All
slow
right,
down.
all right.
Very
Bless.
So let's watch the pictures here. If you were to see the two pictures that we would have put up here, basically, if you were to watch the buildings looks very complex. The picture on the left is basically Galaxy Soho, and the picture on the right is the Phoenix International Media Center located in Beijing. Anybody who visited Beijing, China, anybody wants to go China at this point in time? I doubt, right? Knowing what is going on. So from the structure, we could see that, it would have taken a lot of things, a lot of time to build these things, build these buildings. And basically, it would have been complex. We'd have had to deal with the engineer, we'd have to deal with the architect, we had to deal with the construction workers, and even the owner. So a lot of persons would have played an important role in basically the construction of these buildings. So when we tour that, when you watch these buildings, when you tour that Napa was amazing. You really have other buildings that look much better, but right? So if anybody going to buy your, please remember to bring back a gold down up for me, please. Thank you. Okay, just like Dubai. So let's move on. We are going to talk about now complex organization. So when I talk about complex organization, it really refers to a business that is huge with a number of employees and different processes. For example, at a financial institution, you would have like a teller, you have like the supervisor, the compliance officer, you have an auditor, a financial analyst, you like have a manager, and then a lot of them with the transactions, we also have to deal with subsidiaries. So when we talk about complex organization, you really have basically you have multiple stakeholders, you have multiple customers, suppliers, you know, as I mentioned, subsidiaries, and all them there to complete a particular job. And basically the process is done. So so now we are going to look at organization as a complex system. So according to Tubbs, Alex are going good so far, right? Just making sure I get a little check, right?
Yeah.
Great. So, according to Tubbs, a system is defined as an environment in which each interaction between members produces outcomes that affect each other, each individual, and subsequent interactions and outcomes. So, when we refer to an organization as a complex system, I would just like to add a little quote, as you can see on the picture on the right hand side from Kevin Kelly. Kevin Kelly, I don't know if anybody knows about him or read about him or even read his book. Anybody read about Kevin Kelly by chance?
No, no,
No,
sorry.
no, so that means you all in which chapter 8 in the book neither. Well, he in the book too, right? So Kevin Kelly, basically, he's executive editor of Wired magazine. He would have visited Jerusalem, the old city, and indeed, as we can see, he would have come across with the laws, the 9 laws of God. No, 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 he's not Moses number 2. But what happened is that he got a vision stating that actually what an organization is and what are the principles and how it operates, how it's supposed to operate in a system. So I'd just like to talk about 3 of the 9 laws of God, right? One is the distributed being. Basically, all the mysteries of life, evolution, intelligence are found in a soil of large distributed systems. I also covered grow by chunking. This is basically the only way a complex system that works is to begin with a simple system that works. And then, right, change is complex. So to do this, they coordinate change. And basically, that is if the rules of the games are composed from the bottom up, then it's likely that interacting forces at the bottom level will also alter the game as it progresses. Over time, rules of change get changed again. So we talked about organization, we talked about complexity, and we talked about organization as a complex. Anybody wants to get a little bit? We can move on now. Move on to the next topic. Let's see, next one.
Yeah, I have a question though.
Yes.
What God has to do with organizations?
You could just repeat your question there.
What God have to do with organizations? What does God have to do with organizations?
Look what I, is it basically what he came across? You talking about the 9 laws of God?
Yeah,
Well, for
yeah.
him, well, basically, Kevin Kelly was basically a visionary. He believed that, from his vision, he believed that from the structure, that God's structure basically, it came from the beginning until the ending. So, there was some form of structure, basically, same thing as an organization would have started off. I know Same thing with us, number of individuals and number of groups so that are made together, that came together and formed an organization. So basically, it was more of a visionary. That's it, Alex. Any other questions?
Hi, I don't have a question. I just would like to say that I'm getting a lot of feedback. I don't know if it's from you in particular or anybody else who may have their mic on, but
Oh, I think Jade, I think Jade's mic is on.
Yeah, it is.
You can just take it off, please. Sorry about that.
it's okay, thanks.
Okay. So we'll move on to the next topic, which is organizational leadership. So, so we would have covered extensively about leadership. We'll just touch on it a little bit. So, a lot of us tend to say that we both have a tendency to have a complex issue. But, it takes a lot to run an organization. And basically, you need like a strong leader to, especially to run a complex organization as such. So according to us, leadership is defined as an influence, relationship among leaders and their collaborators who intend real changes that reflect their mutual purpose. So, when we talk about leaders, you must have a strong communication. You must, strong communication skills. You must be able to motivate staff. Do you really think leaders are really born or made? But, we're just, you leave that right there. We can talk about that after. Our next topic that we're going to cover is organizational structure. So earlier, I would have mentioned organization has some form of structure. So basically, this all gives us an outline of how information is flowed from one level to another. So underneath organizational structures, we are going to cover today traditional, the inverted structure, the web structure, and the non-hierarchical structure. So when we think on here about the traditional structure, as you can see from the diagram here, basically, it looks like a pyramid, you know, but this is one of the most common forms of structures that we have in the organization today. Basically, as from the diagram, you can see that the chain of command comes from the top. You have your COE at the top, then it goes, the information is passed to senior management, then as you can see, the middle management, and then it comes down to the normal employees. So basically, before the employees, you normally have like a little supervisor that will be able to direct. So from our traditional structure, we can see that the level of authority from each employee is divided into different departments, and they have basically a specific function. Also, management is basically in control of the organization itself. Our next organizational structure is the inverted structure. So the inverted structure is basically upside down pyramid. So the only difference here with the inverted pyramid is that it encourages employees to use their skills in various capacities. I know basically their roles and functions a little bit more easier to
I don't know if it's just me,
George,
but you're breaking up.
the
Miss
structure.
George, you moved way too far from your microphone. We're not hearing you.
Everybody working towards the common goal and everybody working more
Hi,
together
Miss George.
as information being passed down basically from the bottom to the top.
Hi,
Our next
Anika.
that we're going to talk about is the web structure.
Anika.
Everybody good so far?
Anika, we weren't hearing you when you were talking about the inverted structure.
You want to listen? Okay, so I'll repeat.
No,
Sorry
no,
about that.
your volume level kind of fell flat.
Oh, okay. Did you
You
hear the
moved away from
traditional?
your microphone apparently.
Did you hear the traditional structure by chance?
You did the traditional, but when you went to inverted, it seems like you moved away from your mic, so you might want to start from there again.
Okay, so well, the inverted structure, as you can see from the diagram, basically is an upside down pyramid. So when we talk about the inverted structure, you can see that basically it encourages employees to use their skills. The employees are able to work together and able to help out management with passing on information and helping to actually complete and finish the goal that is expected for the organization. Sometimes there's a less conflict between the managers and employees, and basically this structure itself, it is very rare, especially in Trinidad, but it seems to be a more feasible option for our organization. The next structure is the web structure. So, when you talk about web, basically we're thinking about the spider web. And when you see a spider web, sometimes the spider web itself looks very complex. So, the spider has different veins. So, what we refer to as the veins is basically the spread. So, the spread of the employees, the spread of the spread of the information basically from the top person to the employees, and the resources that are used. So, employees, as you can see from that, employees will be a little bit more flexible. They'll have some in the communication will tend to be a little more easier and relationship wise. The last structure is the non-hierarchical structure. So the non-hierarchical structure, basically it is much easier. Employees report to one single leader. It encourages flexibility and creativity. It is basically totally different from actually the normal pyramid structure, and roles are not basically clearly defined. So now I'd like to hand you over to Jade Sinclair, that she'll be presenting on other exciting topics. Before I go, any questions?
I have one question. Hi.
Yeah, this thing.
Yeah. So I'm looking at the inverted structure. Would you say that that structure gives a voice to the lower level employees? Does it actually place the lower or lowest level employees in a position where they really feel a part of the decision making process of the company? Do they actually have some sort of, I don't know, ownership in the process or in the objectives and the missions of the organization based on that structure?
Yes, it does. It's a little bit more easy and achievable, especially with the inverted structure. And a lot of the employees tend to be a little bit more motivated than the other structures, especially the traditional structure.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
Wonderful.
Yeah, Kenroy. On that same vibe, I was gonna ask if there's like a cooperative structure or something similar to a cooperative
Yeah,
structure.
yeah, yeah.
Yes, 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 it is. But it's not very common in Trinidad, as you can see. We tend to more have the traditionally normal pyramid structure. We always have the theory. We have also, and just coming down, straight down to the employees. Anything else, Kenroy?
No, that's it for now. I may have other questions, but I'll wait till the presentation is done.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right, no problem. But I'll hand you over to Jade Sinclair, who will finish our presentation. Jade?
Thank you, Anika, and it's Jade St. John. But that's fine. So, good evening, all. You all hearing me?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Jade, go ahead. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
What's up, Jade?
Yes.
All right. Good evening, everyone. So, I will be presenting on the importance of a mission, vision, and core values of an organization. Right? So, organizations exist for a specific purpose to represent the views of the members, to produce some product, to provide activities for its members, or any countless other reasons. Right? This is what causes people to want to join and participate in an organization. A critical aspect of the success or failure of an organization will be how its purpose comes to life in its vision and actions. The importance of a mission, vision, and core values of an organization can never be overstated. Together, the vision, mission, and core values provide directions for everything that happens in an organization. They keep everyone focused on where the organization is going and what it is trying to achieve. And they define the core values of the organization and how people are expected to behave. Sorry. So in the diagram there, it shows that your mission shapes your today, your vision tells your tomorrow, and your core values guides the way, right? So firstly, we'll start on what exactly is a mission statement, right? So determining a mission statement is simple. You just have to know why an organization, why the organization exists, right? So the mission of an organization should be, shared widely in as many forms as possible. So once you have written, or anyone has written a mission statement for the organization, the statement should be shared widely in as many forms as possible so that it can be used to truly guide the actions of an organization. So I don't know if anyone noticed, when you go into an organization, you would see their mission statement on the walls in their lobbies, or even on their website. So your mission statement should be shared in as many forms as possible, right? And it should offer a compelling reason for the organization existence. So what contribution the organization makes to the space it operates in, right? This should be articulated in a way that is enticing to potential participants, such as customers and investors, and should motivate staff to wake up and actually get to work. Because you know that as a staff, you would say, okay, the mission of our organization is X, Y, Y, Z, and I truly believe in it, and therefore I will put my best foot forward in reaching the mission of the organization.
You have an
Right?
example of that? You have an example of that?
I didn't hear you.
Ask if you have an example of a mission statement that would do all the things you just said.
Yes, I do, but it's coming up in a little while.
All right, my bad, my bad.
No problem. All right. So a mission statement must not be vague, disconnect, or an obvious statement. You know, we don't want to be saying if you are in the car sales business, first, let's just say, and your mission statement is to sell cars. Well, duh, you know, we know that you are selling cars, right? So a mission statement must be written in clear, concise language and includes input gathered throughout the organization. So it reflects the personality of an organization, right? So our mission statement shouldn't only be written by the owner of the business. He should incorporate feedback from staff as well, throughout the organization to determine what is a suitable mission statement for that organization. It's important to know, well, that you don't necessarily need a mission statement, but it's just important to have one. So here are some examples of a mission statement. We have Unicoma, which is known as courts in Trinidad, and it can be as lengthy as this one. I don't know if you all need a few minutes, a few seconds to read through, right? It could be as short as United Parcel Service, which we call UPS, or it can be of high standards, as Google's, whose mission is to organize the world information and make it universally accessible and useful. Right?
1 second.
Mm-hmm.
You check to see if the employees contributed to those statements?
What's that?
Did you check to see if the employees contributed to those statements, like Unicoma, that long one?
No, I didn't check to see if employees contributed, but I have a strong feeling that they did. Developing a mission statement, it really takes a lot of input, because so you will write one thing. I would say that when you write let me say a mission statement, it's advisable that you pass it around, let other persons go through it. Say, all right, well, instead of using this word, use that word. It may be because remember, you have to entice persons to join or purchase from your organization. So, you know, it's always a good idea to get feedback on whatever your mission statement as the owner of the organization or the head of the organization, to get feedback so that, it could be written with everyone in mind, basically, and it would be um, exactly what your business offers.
Hi,
Yeah?
excuse.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to ask that when you say the input of employees, right?
Mm-hmm.
As the guy was asking, is it like even sales reps and stuff?
Yes, because the sales, let me say it is a sales business you're doing, right? So
Right.
it may not be necessarily you. So when it will have a strategic planning team,
Mm-hmm.
so probably the sales manager would be involved. But in having, let's just say, a focus group with his staff, he could ask them, certain questions that he could now come up with something that could contribute to the mission statement.
Oh, okay.
So that is initially how, or the best way to develop a mission statement or
I
any
got
statement.
I gotta ask you something real hard.
Mm-hmm.
You don't feel that, and you need to answer this for the other two as well, the vision and the objectives. You don't feel
Mm-hmm.
all that is just mama guy?
If I think
It's just mama guy and management gonna do what they're gonna do anyway.
well,
What
I
kind of?
cannot determine that. It's up to the business too. And well, you would see it later on when I get to the core values why it should not be a mama guy and that they should actually live up to whatever their mission states. Because the mission statement is not to benefit the customers basically. It's to benefit the organization.
Right.
Yeah? Any other questions? Hello?
I have
Uh,
one.
I,
Go ahead, Nikila, go ahead.
no, I was just going to say that I have none, but you have, so go right ahead.
Yeah, okay, so the issue of quote unquote mama guy came up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in any organization, I mean, the mission and vision would have been established in its earliest, so at the inception of the company.
Yeah.
But over time, as staff changes and management changes, what must be done in order for that company to not stray away from its mission and vision? So, for example, if I establish a company today and
Mm-hmm.
50, 60 years, I have to retire and I hand over the company to someone else, and then next 50, 60 years again, somebody else takes over the company.
Mm-hmm.
What does it then take for that mission and vision to be maintained for the next 50, 60, 100, or however many years the company lasts? And also another question, what would result in a company having to change its mission statement? Is it environment? Is it change in economy? Just those two questions. How do you maintain a vision and mission statement? And what would result in a company having to change or alter its vision and mission statement?
Okay, you're kind of rushing me, but I'll answer.
Sorry.
um, okay, in terms of maintaining the company's mission and vision statement, it all depends on the members of the organization, right? So if you remember, the mission and vision is there to kind of persuade people to enter or to purchase from your organization, right? So when you are going into a company's organization, it is important that you know what are the company's mission and vision, and know if it is you are a suitable person to carry out these or to achieve these mission and vision. A lot of people overlook companies' mission and vision statements. A lot of us don't even know what is our company's or organization that we are part of mission and vision statements. So you would tend to see persons going into an organization and not knowing what is the mission. You just know that, as I would have mentioned before, that they're selling cars and you are a sales rep. So you just go in there to sell cars, not knowing that the company's mission statement might be not even concerning selling cars, but maybe it's to to provide customers with exceptional service or exceptional after sales or something like that, because selling the car is one thing, but keeping and holding on to your customers and actually, or investors, right? You actually have to be able to um, basically be in alignment with the company's mission and vision statement. And with regards to how it evolves, you are you can change your company's mission and vision statement as your business grow or change, or however, whatever shift your business would encounter,
Yeah.
especially whereby your vision, where we will get to in a while, whereas your vision statement is supposed to be something you look towards achieving. So sometimes a business may start and let me just say the owner or whomever um, doesn't necessarily doesn't didn't dream big enough, and they said that their vision is just to get 50 customers, and then when you reach 50 customers now, obviously you have to change that vision statement because you already met that vision that you would have had initially. Yeah.
Yes, very, very practical answers. Thank you very much.
Thanks. All right, so we move on now um, to okay, sorry. So finally, the mission of your organization could be social, service related, programmatic, political, or any combination. But as I was now saying, the effectiveness of an organization will be determined by how well it moves towards its mission, right? So I have a mission statement here. I don't know if anyone knows whose mission statement this is.
That's
Don't
ours.
rush. That's whose?
Ours.
Costard, yeah, that's Costard.
Yes, it is Custard's mission statement, right?
I just posted a KFC one too.
You what?
I just texted a KFC
Okay,
one.
FC mission statement.
I think he was trying to appeal to the point where he was trying to make out the mama guy, because when I did read it, I didn't understand where he was coming from when he said that, but I didn't want to bring it up because I didn't want to interrupt you.
Right. No, it is important to know also that a lot of mission statements are basically mamagism, because the company no way operates as their mission statement implies. So
Oh,
I'm just saying what I have experienced. I'm not saying that all is like that, but some companies just have a mission statement, a vision statement, because it's required. As in where I work, we are required to have a mission statement, a vision statement, and core values. That's a requirement by ACTT. So we have one due to that. So now, as much as we may try to live up to the mission statement, or however, the purpose that it was invented was not necessarily to follow through. If Olia don't mind me saying that, that's just my opinion, right?
So, out of curiosity, since you brought this up,
Mm-hmm.
um, how do you think Costard's faring with their mission? And this is a question not only to you, but to all
Right.
the students who feel that they want to comment about it. So, I've given Ole a chance to bad talk and say what's on your mind.
Well, sir, to be honest, I had an opinion, and I was like, Jade, don't say this about your school, but I'll leave it up to my classmates um to voice their opinion.
yeah, but you present it, present your
No,
opinion,
sir, said it's for anyone else, but um
But you can lead it. You can lead the way.
okay. So to me, the whole high quality is the I mean, I'm not saying that we don't get high quality um teaching, as in I not because sir on this, but I think that most of my lectures that I had thus far has been excellent instructors, right? But with regards to the staff, the other staff, like the admins, and it hasn't been living up to this high quality word that they have inside here. I mean, it is affordable and accessible, but I think that they need to up the quality of service across the board.
I would like to agree to that statement. Thank you very much.
So, so what you're talking about there is what Kenroy was talking about. From time to time, I don't know if any of you all have been part of whenever we do reaccreditation, we
Mm-hmm.
always do focus groups with students, both past and present, faculty, staff, and all stakeholders, even the people who hire our graduates, to find out whether or not we are meeting this or whether or not. So understand that in all organizations, a mission statement is also a measuring tool to see whether or not we are actually doing what we say we want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have the systems in place to do it? Are we actually executing? And your criticism, I think, is a valid piece of criticism. It's not said in anger or in haste. It's said in the bare light of your own experience with the organization.
Yeah.
And you might find that other members of your class would share the feelings that you have there across the board. And those are things that are appreciated by an organization who's looking to maintain high quality of service across the board. And I
Yeah.
would I would take that on as being okay. So we know we have gaps, and that's one of the functions of having a mission statement and reviewing it periodically.
Yeah.
Not like what Ken was saying when the manager leaves and that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
but when we're supposed to do this every 5 years, 5 to 10 years, review and see. Because you're right, if you achieve the vision, then your vision needs to be changed and adjusted based upon the changing circumstances in which you're creating your business or running your business. So, excellent discussion. All right.
So,
Yes.
can I say that I am a part of the problem because I don't answer none of the surveys and stuff?
That's part of the problem too, because those things feed into our decision making and our management thrust into trying to make differences. And the complaint that Jade talked about is a valid one because there have been situations in which I myself find it frustrating sometimes trying to deal with the administrative aspect of getting work done. And
Mm-hmm.
I see and I hear the frustration that students go about when simple things like trying to get a transcript and requesting information from registry and paying your fees, and it's too much like pulling teeth sometimes. That part we need to get right. We need to get it right fast because that is part of forget the classroom itself, but that's also part of the college activities that you get into, and
Yeah.
we have to pay attention to that because it's an all-inclusive experience. It's not that you can take out piece and push piece there. It's
True.
everything comes together.
Right.
So it's an overall experience, and it is incumbent on everybody in the organization to know that there's a gap and work together to get it sorted out.
So
Yes, Kenroy.
yes, so on this topic, so I can't speak for everyone else's program, but I can speak very specifically into the mathematics program. So and when I look at it in tandem with this mission and vision statement, so that whole high quality aspect there comes across as a fallacy, sir, because I mean a lot of times I would look at my program and compare it with other programs across the world.
Right.
And simple things. I mean, if I don't even have to leave the country, we could look at UE, for example. right? Now, there are certain things that UE would incorporate as part of their program that COSTAT is not doing. Simple things like doing more computerized aspects of mathematics by implementing programs such as MATLAB and Maple, so for example, right? These are things that we genuinely need as math majors. So, I mean, there are some things that we cannot calculate without using computerized systems, and we just have to accept by faith that, hey, this is the answer in the textbook, so this is what we go, but that what we going with, right? And then again, the course in and of itself comes across as being very intensive, because I mean, it would appear as though there are some courses that I have to do that are pretty much master's level courses, because I have friends who have done their math bachelor's degrees in different institutions. And when I come to them with homework and say, well, hey, I need help with this, they're like, but Kenroy, we never did that. Why are you doing that? You understand? Yeah, and I mean, it is really mind-boggling. I mean, the fact that the program is like 120 credits, where everywhere else is 96, 95, or even 90 credits, it seems a bit too much, and it
Yeah.
seems a bit overwhelming at times. So there seems to be a lack
Again,
of view, and I don't know.
again, each department is also supposed to engage in, now from the academic standpoint, each department is supposed to engage in academic review, program
Yeah,
review,
yeah,
and review the content of their program in relation to the external environment. Because if you look at the third line down there, serving the needs of business, industry, and diverse communities,
mm-hmm.
that means that you have to be paying attention to all aspects of your business. In the case of the department, it is the business of the degree programs and the degree options.
Yeah,
So again, that is something that the math department has to tackle, and they
mm-hmm.
need leadership to be able to do that. So you understand now where they, in the mission, it's telling them that this is what should be done, but
Yeah,
they have to be held to task for it. You
yeah,
follow?
yeah.
And that's the purpose and function of mission and vision
Mission and
statement,
visions. Yeah, yeah,
right? So again, criticisms like what you're talking about, there's something that should be documented and sent to the head of department or the coordinator for that department.
yeah.
But the math department has had some structural issues um, in terms of its leadership,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
you probably are hitting at a particular poignant problem that may exist in that department. But I
Yeah,
would say, Kenroy, you should put your thoughts together in some form of communication,
yeah, yeah,
and then send it to the head of the department, because could be useful if they take it as what it is, which is
yeah.
constructive criticism.
Yeah.
Make
Will
sense?
do, sir. Definitely will do that, sir. Definitely. Yeah.
That's one of the things that we have to also teach our students, that there's a need for us to constructively criticize rather than nag people or to,
Yes. Yes. Agreed. Agreed. Yeah.
all right,
Thank you,
or
sir.
do the make out scene on Facebook, which
Nah,
is
I don't subscribe to that, sir. No, no,
no,
no.
no, but understand that's a lot of times we have to respond to things because of the nature of how it's presented to us
Yeah.
in a public forum.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah. Yeah.
so we've drifted away a little bit from Jade's presentation, so let's get her back on stream. Okay.
That's fine, sir. The more information, the better. All right. So we know what is a mission statement and what it's supposed to look like. So now we move on to a vision statement, right? A vision is a vivid mental image of what you want your organization to be at some point in the future, based on your goals and aspiration. Having a vision will give your organization a clear focus and stop you from heading in the wrong direction, right? A vision statement captures in writing the essence of where you want to take your organization and can inspire you and your staff to reach your goals. So the vision must tap into the motivational system of the people in your organization, right? It could be simple, but it must be impactful, right? Cousins and Posner refers to the vision of the organization as an ideal or unique image, of the future. Albrecht terms it an image of what the people of your enterprise aspire for it to be or become. The vision answers the question, what do we want to be? What is the best we can be? And what is the ideal future for the organization? Right? So it's not just, all right, well, we want to sell 100 cars. Is that the best you could do when you think about a vision statement? Just think about a vision for your own life, like where you see yourself in 5 years. And is it something, if it's not, but as we see here, vision should motivate, inspire. So if it's not motivating or inspiring you, scrap it, write a new one, right? Our vision should be a stretch, be clear and concrete, be achievable, reflect high values, and be simple. So sometimes when you're writing a vision, it has to be achievable, but it has to sound as though it might be unachievable, but it must be realistic when it is you are writing your vision statements, right? So here are some examples of a vision statement. We have custards, um, and we have cricket West Indies, for the sole purpose that I'm a cricket fan, so I had to find something of the sort to, you know, to
Okay.
reflect that.
Okay.
And a vision should be future oriented and specific. So if you look at the two examples I have here, given the what I told you that vision statement should be, do you think that either of these, I'm not sure if anyone follows cricket, or but you could look at custard, because we all are part of custard, and determine if these statements are suitable vision statements? Anyone?
Yeah, big cricket fan. I love the West Indies one.
But do you think that it actually reflects what cricket West Indies does?
No.
I didn't hear you. Okay.
Yeah, I just scream at the top of my voice. No.
Sorry, I didn't hear you then. All right. So you see why it is important to have a vision that you could actually aspire to. I mean, you know, they're aspiring, so you can't really you know, say
Uh,
no or
I
whatever.
was
They're
I was just for the
aspiring to
West
be
Indies
this.
part. I was just for the West Indies part. No, I didn't scream against Costa. I just scream against the West Indies.
Okay, anyone else?
It's interesting that you should bring up these two vision statements because the president of Costat, when we first designed that mission statement, became the CEO of the West Indies Cricket Board. And he led that development of vision and mission statements for both organizations.
Right.
So it's a overlap.
As the red man who
No,
get
no, no,
fired.
no. You're talking about this is the first president of the Peters.
Oh, I thought it
Uh,
was the red man who get replaced.
Now, Dr. Peters went across when he left Costat. He went across to the cricket board, the West Indies cricket board, and he led this whole revamping of vision and mission and that kind of stuff. This was especially when they were having Laro was still batting then, and that's when they started to have problems with Chris Gayle, and they were trying to rein in his behavior and stuff like that. Now, that's when the Weeper came out as the West Indies cricket, the Players Association.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yeah,
that was a
that
tremendous.
boy who became a lawyer after.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Uh,
So he was involved with both organizations at the time, and that vision mission statement was developed back in 2000, just before 2000, 1998, 97, 99. Both of them came up in and around the same time. The same with the same kind of drive that they did. So in order to get that, they got all meetings together, stakeholders involved, people writing. I remember having to write about this vision statement over and over again. We kept on doing both the vision and mission statements to be able to get that done. All right, continue, my dear.
Okay, so now we move on to core values. So without values, sorry, any behavior would be justifiable if it moves the organization towards its mission or vision. So what they're basically saying is, without core values, somebody could do anything. So let's just take, for example, the administrative arm of custard. So let's say registry. You go into registry. When you get there, you are greeted, hi, good day, need help, but the tone of which they greet you is like, okay, what is going on here? And then you the person is helping you, but the behavior is very, very unpleasant, you know. And but at the end of the day, you're still a student at Custard. So hey, we have students, right? So it doesn't really matter um what they do, but how they do things, as long as the ends justifies the means, right? So, but when you have core values, which you see here, the DNA of a business, um, you would find staff behaving different because, let's just say, a core value of an organization is to be pleasant. When you walk into an organization, the person would not just greet you, but they will greet you pleasantly. So you would never have to say, you know what, I get real attitude from that person. And regardless of how you behave towards the person, as a member of that organization whose core value is to be pleasant and respectable, they should always treat you pleasant and respectable, right? So the core values are also standards of how a business owner wants to operate the business, right? So although core values are important to the success of an organization, unlike the mission and vision statement, they are rarely discussed or shared among members. It's just basically, um, you know, this is how you're supposed to behave. You know, when you were growing up, your parents will tell you, do X, do Y, do Z. So you know for a fact that this is what, they don't have to constantly remind you. You know that this is how my parents expect me to behave. And when I'm out, this is how I'll behave, right? So core values answer the question, how do we, because everybody now have to participate in manifesting the core values of the organization. So how do we as organization members agree to treat ourselves and others as we pursue the mission and vision of the organization, basically? So Collins and Porras describe core values as the organization's essential and enduring tenets, a small set of general guiding principles, not to be confused with specific cultural or operating practices. So with regards to the operating practices, you know, you have to greet somebody, so you greet somebody, but the core value would tell you greet someone professionally, greet someone politely, or respectable as you go along, right? Not to be compromised for financial gain or short-term expendices. These core values are small, sometimes 3 to 6 words. Some organization has more than 6, as you would see in an example that I have. And so core values are fundamental and deeply held, that they will change or compromise seldom, if ever. So if it needs to change, if we need to add in a couple core values, take out some, we don't practice this again, we practice that, you know, so you could arrange, have the core values to really suit your organization, right? So these are Custard's core values. So it would be student-centeredness, excellence in teaching and learning, commitment to service, innovation, respect for others, integrity, transparency, and fairness, continuous learning and improvement, and responsibility and accountability. So, anyone has any questions about core values?
Yeah. Yeah.
No, no,
Yeah,
no,
what,
no.
yeah. You wanna go or you wanna let me go first, Kenroy.
No, I have no questions. You go ahead, bro.
All right, thanks. Yeah, there was a national program to reform the public service in terms of how they respond when people interact with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I experienced it myself, and some of the organizations changed dramatically. Dramatic change. You know, instead of the cuss and carry on and the well, who is you, boy? You know, and you had to know somebody and you had to be able to pull strings to, to get you. It didn't high but it was all scripted. So it just sounds very scripted. So I don't know if that's a win or a loss in terms of what you're talking about, in terms of the core values of the organization and how they transform organizations.
Yeah, because you see, some it just boils down to the individual as well. Because I mean, how hard it is to be polite for 8 hours a day, you know? So you want to force it. I mean, it has to be something within your core as well. You know, you can't ask someone who has a ridiculous attitude to just change because you say to change. It has to really be the persons in the organization itself must want to reflect the core values of that organization in their behaviors. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. But like I'm the only person who ever interact with the organization. I'm not saying anybody else.
Anyone else has any questions or concerns?
No.
All right. So,
All right, so
mhm,
if nobody else has any questions, anybody in Costad ever encountered a Costad hall monitor?
I have not.
A whole monitor.
I think once, but that was in my first year. That was ages ago.
I don't even know
But
we
still, we have hall monitors.
Yeah, I didn't know we had whole monitors.
Neither did I.
Yeah, I
I
think
don't
I,
know if it's called,
I think it's
we
one
don't
once.
call them all monitors. What we call them is uh, they, they're safety officers really for each floor.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like for the longest while I was a safety officer at the on fourth floor.
So it's not students. It's
No, no, no. It had to be people who were trained in health and safety.
Mm-hmm.
So every year we used to have to, every year or two, we'd have to go back and do our certification for first aid and CPR and stuff like that. And then we had to do fire drills and stuff like that. So there's a lot of training involved. Students could assist, but they had to have somebody to lead them off. That makes sense?
yeah, gotcha.
Anyone else?
Nothing right now.
All right. So, just to wrap up on the mission, vision, and core values, it is important for the mission and vision statement to be clearly stated and inspiring. It is also the reason why these two statements must constantly be at the front of all leaders and members and used to guide the actions of the organization. As I said before, it can be changed, as so would have stated. It should be revised every 5 to 10 years or so, right? And what I want to encourage you all to do is, even in your personal lives, have develop some mission and vision statement, and also core values that you would that is suitable to your life at the moment and where you want to achieve what you want to achieve. You could do it in as in the next 5 years or so. So at least you'll be able to continuously improve yourself, basically, right? And we took the liberty of developing a mission statement, a vision statement, and core values for our group, right? So our mission statement is to present relevant information to our class, which helps them understand leadership in an organizational context and the importance of the relational leadership model, right? Our vision statement is to achieve full marks for our presentation. Nothing too fancy. And our core values are honesty, integrity, commitment, and most importantly, teamwork, right? So that is it for my presentation. I will now pass you on to Liana. If you have any questions, feel free to do so before I um, pass on to Liana.
Yeah, before you go. When I was, I'm a old guy, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I learned the sequence as vision, then mission, then objectives, then values.
Right.
So I just asking why you didn't present it in that specific order.
Well, most companies I've seen, I don't think it has, and I should have know this for sure, but I don't think it has a specific way of if you want to write the mission or the vision first. I don't know if it's stated that you should write it a particular way, but I have seen some organization has the vision first and then the mission, but most organizations I would have seen they would have the mission first, then the vision. Because remember, the mission is where you are today, and then the vision is where you see yourself down the road. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
so
that's
um,
correct because the mission is usually classified as the journey. So
yeah,
your vision is a destination, and the mission is the journey. So it's what you must be doing to achieve your vision. And the
yeah,
core values are those things that will empower your organization to be able to get there.
yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, that's it. Anyone else?
Yeah, you all mentioned something in the earlier section of the presentation concerning the inverted organizational structure, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So what I was wondering, that inverted structure, where does that emanate from? Is it that the manager himself decides, well, hey, I want my company to be this way, so this is what we're going with, and this is what we want? Yeah. So where does the whole issue of you wanting to have an inverted structure and the whole issue of you wanting your workers to be part of your process and part of your mission, where does that come from?
All right, I'll ask Anika to answer that if possible.
And why is it severely lacking? Because I think you all would have mentioned that it's rare in our country. Why is that the case?
All right, so let me help you all here because that can be quite involved. So the inverted structure is suited more to what is referred to as participative styles of management.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
in most organizations in Trinidad, they utilize more traditional approaches, which tends to be top down.
Yeah.
But there are a number of organizations that are trying to break back into the participative mode and invert the structure so that the ground or the person at the ground level drives the organization and its movement forward. The issue that has always come up with that is that participative management. If you remember when I did it beginning, when we was looking at different management structures, is extremely difficult to manage and to work,
Mm.
simply because it's time consuming, and
Okay.
organizations tend to view time as being one of those limited resources that they have available to approach any sort of decision making process. So if it's taking too long to make a decision utilizing participative approaches, it's generally going to be negated if there's a speed or time frame in which things have to be done. Because
Okay.
I know in Costat we try to use participative management, but it's always in a matter, okay, we need to get this done quickly. And
Right.
because it's done in a rush, what ends up happening is what goes forward is not necessarily the very best that you can get done
Okay.
because of um, the time crunch that usually comes in with it. But it's a process that requires continuous investment to be able to get it to begin to work. Because one of these situations that comes up is a lot of employees do not want to participate in the, because
Okay.
it becomes harder to run your, it becomes harder because you start to recognize that if you have collectively made a choice or decision on behalf of the company, and the company chooses to then say, okay, the employees have decided this is what we'll be doing, and
Mm-hmm.
then you are then charged with the responsibility of having to follow through yourself. You follow?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of employees don't like that because they have a situation where it's almost like when we shifted over to learner centered teaching, we had massive rebellion from students, for the simple reason that they felt as if teachers weren't doing what they're supposed to do. So a
Wow.
class like this, which is learner centered approach, was looked upon as, well, what's the point of having Sir here? Sir not teaching anybody nothing. You understand?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that rebellion that took place is part of the process of moving people towards being more participative in their approach to how things are being done.
Okay. Okay.
And
Okay.
we get logged down or bogged down with traditional approaches to doing things. And that is why you find that a lot of organizations don't have that
That inverted arm.
yeah, that investment in the person. In
So
fact,
you know,
yeah,
one of the first courses I did in Costa was the IT course, and he did exactly what you're doing right now, which
right,
is tell us to prepare lectures and present to the class.
right.
You know,
But how consistent was it done? Some subject matter doesn't lend itself to it. So, like when you go into remedial math and remedial language classes, it doesn't work. When I try to do it with economics, a lot of students have too much difficulties. Challenged, they're challenged by the material, so they can't focus on the learning aspect if they're struggling to understand the basic information. So there's a balance, and it takes time for us to work into that participative approach. But the idea would be that eventually what starts to happen is that the approach becomes more acceptable within the organization and more acceptable to the student body, so that when they meet that technique, they're not, you know, they're not going to have a negative response to it, but they're going to welcome the opportunity
Yeah.
to be able to do those things. So it's a bit tricky, but it also requires, and it requires a lot more work from the lecturer. Having given you all the work doesn't mean that it removes the workload from me or from
Hmm.
a lecturer. It means that the lecturer has to pay attention to what is happening to make sure that they can correct any sort of misdirection that's taking place. Because you can consider teaching is difficult, but on teaching is even harder. If a mistake is made, teaching to correct an error is more difficult than than um, than trying to teach something for the first time where somebody just doesn't know it. Um, I've had experience with that actually. There was a time I taught a class and I made a mistake in the approach. I was doing some statistical analysis and I
Mm.
made a mistake in the approach. And it took me one class to make the mistake, and it took me six classes to fix the mistake
Ooh.
because I led them down the wrong path to begin with. And I realized the error after the class, and then I realized, okay, I have to fix this. So it took a longer time to fix it than it was to teach it right the first time. That's
Right.
why every class requires a lot of prep.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
always
Yeah, and Kenroy,
Oi.
on the issue you raised it about UE, you know, there was actually an issue where students from Coastat would go to UE and then UE would say they can't do the work and UTT would say they can't do the work
Hmm.
because they're not accustomed to doing research. But as
Yeah.
far as I know, sir, you could jump in here.
well,
CoStat has altered their program to include some stuff that would allow CoStat students to jump into UTT and UE.
yeah, that we one of the issues that came up was there was the belief that the COSTAT student coming from the associate degree program was not provided with enough foundation for them to jump into the program at second year and would make them do over first year.
Hmm.
Now you have to remember the problem that we had is that we are doing a 4-year degree program, whereas UE in particular is using a 3-year degree program, baccalaureate program. So the idea was that you could or should be able to finish the associate degree and transfer into the University of the West Indies model and get at least first year and part of second year off. But they weren't willing to trust that our students had the capacity to do it. And they kept on saying they didn't, which meant that we now had to go back into our programs and bolster the areas that they felt there were gaps to
Hmm.
be able to get the transfer across. And in truth, what happens to our students who move across is that they outperform everybody else who comes from the A level background, and we're not talking about a A class students. We're talking about the average student who maintains, because to get a transfer across, you need to have a GPA of 3.0. So that means you have to be at least at a B to be able, on average of a B, to transfer across and get transfer credit. And they would have held back our students even with the 3.0 and say, okay, no, you have to do over year one. And when they started from year one, they were able to do everything and more. And by the time they finished, they generally tended to graduate with first class honor degrees. Um, the problem with that though is that it frustrates students when they have to go back into a system and repeat things. And in essence, what you're doing is wasting time. So
Yeah.
we've
Yeah.
had that experience. In fact, we used to have that experience back in the days when I used to teach at John Donaldson Technical as well. So the students leaving the engineering programs and the technician programs would go across to UE and outperform the UE students coming out of the A-level programs, 10 to 1, because they simply had no bearing on understanding of the application of the theory that they were looking at all. Because again,
Hmm.
technicians were being taught to do, um, not just to understand, but to do
Yeah.
things.
Practical.
Yeah, it was a practical approach. Even the management technician program that I, and the accounting technician program was about performing day-to-day tasks in organizations that were required for scheduling, for making decisions, and making choices about how to price goods and that kind of stuff. So it was a practical approach to everything. And we when we developed the COSTAT model, we borrowed that approach, that application approach. That's why you have AAS degrees, not an AS degree. So I don't know if you understand that, but the AAS degree and the associates is an applied arts program, an applied arts of science program, or the AS. as opposed to a straight AS degree, which is just simply academic in nature. So
Yeah, before you go too deep on that, I
Mhm.
experienced that already with a UE graduate, and she didn't even know how to connect an internet system, and she
Correct.
had a full degree.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. I have even encountered a situation like that. I mean, a very, very good friend of mine, he's an engineer. He works internationally. I'm talking about the Middle East, Germany, and he told me, I mean, we were talking, and he told me he does not want to work with any UB graduates. He said he hates working with UB graduates because they only have mouths. You understand?
Well,
He's he, he's telling me that he prefers to work with UTT graduates any day because they know how to actually do things, but the UB students just talk. They just have theory.
right, and that's because the nature of how UTT and COSTAT, we use the American model to design our programs. And the American model looks at application and use of theory very quickly in the program. So your first 2 years is all the theory that you're going to need. After that, it's about putting it to work, applying it.
So, so why is UTT? I mean, I represent COSTAT already in conferences and all kind of stuff, and UTT and UE's cornering us and treating us like dirt, like we're the lowest of the level, lowest of the low.
Right, and
Hold on.
that's because of institutional positioning in the market. The positioning of the in the market right now is that our remember, if you go back into our mission and vision, you'd realize that our organization is positioned to transition people who weren't prepared to go to university, to give them access to tertiary education. So it's not so much the institute. Well, it is the institution by the fact that we are primarily servicing people who are underprepared for college life. But we invest a lot of developmental work with our students to be able to bring them up to international standards. Because of the nature of because right, if you think about it, the first choice for a student when they're going into school is and they want to go to UE is that they have to do A levels. And once they do A levels, then they go to university. And so that's basically the top 10% of the schools out who make it into that system. Because again, there are only so many places in A levels. But so what happens to everybody else? They get to their O levels and they stop. So we provided an opportunity for people to take their O levels and access tertiary education, but they were missing those 2 years of advanced level development to help shape them for the for the academic rigors of college life. The difference being, however, is that A levels is non-applicable into the working world. So when you come out of A levels, you really have no skill. All you have is really the ability to study more and to do more academic work. The equivalent to that is 2 years in the associate degree, which is actually going to take you through foundation and prepare you for application in the world of work, unless the degree is specifically designed to take you into further studies, which is anybody here who's doing the biology degree, for example. The biology degree is designed strictly to take you to medical school. It has no other function but to do that. All right, but all the other degrees that's going, the math degree that you do, Kenroy, is designed to take you into the teaching service. That's why it has such depth to it in some instances.
Yeah.
And it's because the ministry required that you do that. The same thing with your IT. I don't know if you're familiar with that, Alex, but in IT, anybody who does IT in other institutions have to come back to Costa to top up on some of the IT areas to be able to teach IT in the secondary system. So the way in which we designed our courses and our programs were designed to meet, if you go back to our mission statement, they were designed to meet the needs of our society. So there are gaps in our society when it comes to lecturing and teaching, especially in math and English. So those programs are designed to take people into the teaching services. So it again, and a lot of it in terms of the attitude that the UWI and UTT to some extent have towards our student body has to do with where we are positioned in the market and who our primary audience is in terms of getting our students coming in. So there are some issues that come up all the time, yes, but
But and they I saw that UTT and UE they about 2 3 years ago they started doing the same thing that COSTAT is doing
yeah, but they
with
had
the
problems.
introductory course.
Yeah, they had problems because you see, remedial work is not something you can just what's the word I want to use. They had both of them had something called a PUP program, which is foundation work that tries to prepare the student to get into the the bachelor's system, and their preparation requires a different mindset to the methodologies that they're utilizing to teach. And that was not something that they did. They just took the same techniques of lecturing that they utilized in the bachelor level programs and tried to force it into the foundation programs, and that started to fail. So that again, you're trying to do something that, but you're not familiar with what exactly you're trying to do. So
That
the
would be our that would be COSTAT's compass.
compass program, yeah, that compass program is what allows students who are not fully prepared to do. So most times students coming into compass have maybe three courses, three O levels,
Right,
and
right.
then they start to get their math and English in place and that kind of stuff. We have to make special dispensation for those people to get gate funding for that because it's not a degree program, but it is a bridging program that we're looking at. But if you come through that program, you can do anything from the bachelor's. All right, guys, we need to give these guys a chance to finish their presentation. All right, Mikhail, you wanted to say something? See, you just unmute there.
Yeah, I was just well, I stopped because you opened back the floor for the presenters, but I was just gonna say that I came through the Compass program and I learned a lot from that program, and I would say it really does prepare you to take on your bachelor's after. And I can also attest that in the workplace, I've noticed that employers are doing comparisons between CUSTAT and UE students. And like, for instance, I did my internship at Ministry of Energy, and the senior communications officer, he said to me that they actually prefer CUSTAT students over UE students because the UE students, they have the theory, but they don't know how to apply the things that they
Yep.
have learned. So they say that when CUSTAT comes in there, CUSTAT is ready to work, you know?
That was the purpose and design of the program. It wasn't only to provide you with the
Mm-hmm.
information or the theory, but it was to provide it in a manner that allowed you to apply it as soon as possible and as quickly as possible. But you're right.
Mm-hmm.
It's these kind of testimonies of what the college needs to hear, that at least some things are working, but there's more to be done. Let's put it that way. All right. So let's get back to our group. I know they're probably raring to finish off their presentation. All right, ladies.
Yes. So I will now pass you on to Liana for her to complete the rest of the presentation.
Good day, everyone. Thanks, and thanks, Jade. Okay, so now we move on to organizational culture. Edra Shrine, he defined organizational culture as a pattern of shared basic assumption that was learned by a group as it solved problems of external adaptation and internal integration, and it has worked well enough to be considered valid and therefore to be taught to new members as the correct way to perceive, think, and feel in relation to those problems. So it is a long definition, but once you take it part by part and put it together, it makes sense. He also suggests that there are 3 levels of organizational culture: artifacts, which relates to the structures and the processes within the organization; beliefs and assumption, which relates to the strategies, goals, and philosophies within the organization; and the underlying assumptions, which relates to the beliefs, perception, thoughts, and feelings that are assumed to be true by the organization members. We move on to organizational network. If there are any questions along the way, feel free to ask. So there are 3 ways that we can examine organizational culture. The first way, Terence Steele and Alan Kennedy, they talked about the importance of organizations, values, heroes, rights and rituals, and communication network. So values are important because it implements the core of the organization and a guidance to the behavior of its members. Heroes. So people outside of the organization contribute to the success of organization by the things that they do. So for example, if there is a organization that provides great service, or if it is selling items, then if they provide good prices and you recommend that organization to people outside and they go there to purchase stuff, then that adds to the success of the organization. So that's where people outside of the organization contribute to the success of the organization. Rites and rituals provide the formal and informal instructions to the members on how the organization needs to proceed. For example, how the members communicate, work together, as well as how meetings are conducted. Communication network relates to how information is accumulated and circulated within the organization, both formally and informally. So Deal and Kennedy also describe characteristics that are part of the communication network. So for example, storytellers. They interpret what is going on in the organization. What they say could be true or it may not be true because it reflects their perception of what they see happening within the organization. Preachers see themselves as guarding the values of the organization. And also another role of them is to keep the members of the organization together. Spies, they are loyal to the leader of the organization and they provide information to the leaders as to what is happening within the organization. So we move on to the second way we can examine organizational culture. Bowman and Deal presented the 4 frames of organization. So the first frame is structural. So that is the formal processes like the organizational charts, the roles, and the job description of the members. Human resource, the members within the organization with regards to their feelings and motivations. Political, so from the point of view that there will always be a scarcity of resources in which the organizations are certainly in conflict with each other, but they have to work together in ways such as forming an alliance that will enable them to gain. So each organization will gain from forming the alliance with each other. Symbolic focuses on the ceremonies, stories, and heroes that assist in defining the organization and mirrors its values. The third way we examine organizational cultures Ofsted, he presented organization cultures through the study of societies from around the world. He said that people differ in 5 dimensions. The power distance index, which relates to the degree to which the particular society supports inequality or equality. Individualism, how much individual work is emphasized over collective or action. Masculinity, the degree to which traditionally male values are embraced over traditionally female values. Uncertainty avoidance index, the degree to which ambiguity and uncertainty are tolerated. And long-term orientation, how much a long-term perspective is favored over a short-term view. So that were the 3 ways of looking at organizational culture. We move on now to the organizational network. So Lipnack and Stamps define networks as where disparate groups of people and groups linked together based on common purposes. These groups of people may be participants in the organization as well as others from outside of the organization. So, for example, an organizational network is where, for example, if there are work that are going to be undertaken on Banner, all students, faculty members, and staff members are notified through email that Banner would not be available at this particular time. So that is an example of organizational network because everyone is notified that it would not be available at that time. So we move on to life cycle of organization. Gardner and Adizes introduced the concept of lives of organization. Gardner uses the term infancy and maturity to differentiate organization in their early stages and from those that evolve into something more orderly and with a sense of direction. Adizes he went into more detail and used terms like courtship, infancy, go-go, adolescence, prime, stability, stable, aristocracy, early bureaucracy, and death to describe the lives of an organization. So according to Gardner, when organizations are young, they are flexible and motivated and willing to try new things and have the ability to respond quickly to new challenges. Yet, they may expend much energy to accomplish relatively little. But as organizations mature, the flexibility lessens and it becomes more orderly and more satisfied with slow and steady advances. We move on now to multicultural organizational development. It emphasizes the full participation of members from all cultural and social groups and a commitment to end all social oppression that exists within the organization that prevents the meaningful, inclusive involvement of all members. The emphasis on diversity and social justice presents a fresh perspective to which it approaches organizational transformation. And as Sir taught us, the relational leadership model emphasizing being inclusive and empowering, and it is essential to understand how an organization might transform to multicultural. So now we move on to labor learning organization. Shrine, Watkins, and Maxick and others, they use the labor learning organization to describe the capacity to grow, change, and develop in order to adapt to challenges of the constantly changing environment. And he conceptualized models of learning organization. So the first one is personal mastery, that involves the individuals doing the best job that they can do. Mental models, that is the assumptions that people make about various aspects of the world. Shared vision focuses on the idea of the mission, vision, and purpose of the organization, as it must be shared by all members. Team learning, and I think this is a very important one. If any true learning takes place, it is through team, organizational, and societal levels. It might include learning how to make decisions, how to communicate, and how to disagree. This system approach of thinking in a learning organization as the framework of this concept are interrelated. So the personal mastery, mental model, shared vision, and team learning are all interrelated. When people think systematically, they share responsibility for good and bad things that are happening in the organization. So they don't go blaming each other or blaming someone for the bad thing that is happening in the organization. Everyone takes responsibility for what is happening. Now we move on to virtual organizations.
Yeah, before you move on,
Yeah.
isn't that like a pipe dream? Because everybody's blame everybody else.
Can you repeat that, please?
I said, isn't that like a pipe dream? Everybody blames everybody else for everything that goes wrong in the organization. It wasn't me, it was you, and it's your fault.
Yes, that's true. In some organizations, that is the way, but and that's where you have to learn how to disagree. And that's a point that you need to know, like, okay, some people may disagree, but you have to find ways in which you can come to an agreement to one solution to the problem. Okay? Oh, okay, well, we move on now to virtual organizations. Charles Handy defines virtual organization as organization that do not need to have people, all people, or sometimes any of the people in one place in order to deliver their service. The organization exists, but you can't see it. It is a network and not an office. Leadership is about the development of relationship. It doesn't matter if it's through information technology or not. Leaders must build relationship in order to lead efficiently and effectively. And we all know the impact that virtual organization has had on the world. So it has been magnified as people now have the ability to communicate and share information with anyone, anywhere, and at any time. And leaders who are leading through information technology, their roles are enhancing cohesion, nurturing trust, promoting the sharing of information, which is really important, moderating team conflict, and facilitating team coordination and the integration. So we move on now to the paradigm leadership in conventional paradigm cultures. So we know we have to embrace the new principles of the new paradigm leadership, but sometimes we find it difficult because we are so in tune with the conventional culture. So therefore, it is a problem. A problem is presented, but we have to take action by continuing to use information and share it more. So by sharing information, you learn more to yourself, as well as you may find people who are interested that you can connect with. And you can also accept personal responsibility, maintain a positive outlook, continue to try new things, volunteer, and most importantly, continue to read and explore to educate yourself. So that was the end of our chapter. Are there any questions? For my part, that is.
No, not a question. Well, I find the topic of organizational culture very, very interesting because I've always ever so often, like I said, I've worked in many places, right? And all these places I've worked at have had their own culture, their different cultures. You know, some things would be acceptable in one company, other things unacceptable in other companies. But the long and short of what I'm trying to say is the culture of an organization consciously created, or does it just happen? And I guess in relation to what was previously discussed with the mission and vision, I would like to believe that the mission and vision should in some way guide the way in which the culture develops. You know, so it wasn't really a question as such, it was just something I think about.
Yes.
Yeah,
So the
all right. Sorry.
no,
Let me
go
jump
ahead.
in there. Let me jump in there too as well before you respond. Kenroy, I was looking at what they call a paradigm, and is a paradigm is something that is actually a pattern. You know, I know you're someone involved in statistics, so how they have an organizational paradigm with statistics, you know, to predict like a pattern or a behavior
Yeah,
within the context of what we dealing with here.
yeah.
Okay, well, now I will hand you over to Jade to conclude our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Liana, for that very informative presentation. So, in conclusion, we have discussed leadership in an organizational context and the importance of relational leadership model of the relationship leadership. Sorry, of the relational leadership model, which are purpose, inclusivity, empowerment, ethics, and power. Now, with regards to purpose, it really speaks to have an individual commit to a goal or activity in your organization. So your staff, how well they actually commit to your mission and vision and well to uphold their core values. With regards to inclusivity, is about involving not only everyone but also everyone's ideas and different viewpoints. So when someone asks about if they really gather the information to develop the mission statement from even a sales staff, with regards to the relational leadership model, that would be a possibility, right? And also with regards to the inverted structure. Uh, some people use that as a tool to achieve total quality management, which we refer to as TQM. So if everyone is involved and they feel as though they are a part, actually a part of the organization. So they actually, the heads of the organization actually listen to them, then they seem to be more productive. So, and then we have empowerment, giving others the ability to not only be involved, but feel involved in a group making decision. Ethical or ethics, being fair to yourself as a leader, other leaders, and to the process you take to achieve your goals. And the process, the path you as a group decide to go in along with how well you stay together, communicate, solve problems, and achieve your goal as a group, right? So we have seen that regardless of the organization or its structure, um, ensuring the members hold each other in a higher standard of behavior that is more closely aligned with the organization's mission, vision, and core values, right? And it's only when the vision or common purpose is truly shared by the entire membership that an organization can reach its potential and be purposeful. Sorry. So that's the end of our presentation. Thank you guys so much for your participation and your presence, and we'll pass you back on to Sid.
No. Yeah, you pass us on back to Sir, but I have questions for the group. Before Sir jumps in,
Uh-huh.
I would like him to not your nice presentation, love it.
Thanks.
I heard some words inside of there, and all social oppression. I would like to know, is it possible? And when Sir jumping in as well, the sociopath as a leader, and the other question that was posed at the very beginning, I don't want it to get lost. You know, expose yourself, expose your true self, because somebody didn't want to post all their personal information to Sir. So you hear
Right.
me?
Yes, I am. I'm hearing
Okay.
you. All right. So what I will do is, since this is going to go into an area outside of the presentation, let's just deal with them. Any questions that are concerning the presentation itself, and so I can turn off the recording. So if the other question, if you want to deal with that other question, then we'll deal with that outside the recording.
Yeah, but the social oppression was part of the they said it. The social and all social oppression was part of their presentation.
All right. So guys, you all have a response to Mr. Culture's question in relation to the social aspect of the model that you're looking at.
Yeah, so the relational leadership model says that everyone needs to be inclusive. So therefore, the social oppression, meaning the unjust of maybe members of the organization, it needs to be put at an end so that the organ, the organizational culture can now have a place in the relational leadership model, which is being inclusive of every member of the organization.
So one of the things you have to remember is that in organizations that have multicultural individuals who are operating in it, there can be a situation that takes place where there's a lack of tolerance for the differences in culture. Now, it's not well, it's a critical issue, but in Trinidad, there's greater appreciation for the culture because of the way our country is designed. But when you go to organizations within in other countries, so if you start to work in international environments, the differences become what is focused on in the individuals that are interacting in the organization. And what ends up happening is that if an organization tends to be dominated by any particular cultural view, then there's a tendency for them to be insensitive towards other cultural views of things. And this is what they're talking about
Very
in
true. Very,
in
very true, sir. I
right.
experienced that personally, yes, sir.
Yeah, I would expect because you had international experience with your work,
Yeah, yeah.
right? And that tends to rear its head up, especially in the United States and America, where this text comes from. So when we translate that to our own experience here, we don't have it as blatantly as it may appear in the US. In our case here, it is more subtle versions of repression that occur in organizations because our one of our watchwords is tolerance and tolerance for difference that has been taught into us since we were children. So we have a background based upon tolerance, but you can go into an organization and because, let's say, for example, you go into an organization that might be um, developed out of a small church mentality or small church grouping of individuals. So the vast majority of people operating in that firm or business comes from that religious background, and people who come from outside of that background have difficulties um, feeling included in the decision making. Now, this is something that happens a lot with smaller firms that are family oriented. So, people outside of the family tend to have problems in the organization because they're treated differently. Um, I don't know if anybody may have worked in companies here or have experience working in a company that might be driven from an Islamic position. So you'd find that working in that environment, there's certain things you can't do, and that can be it can lead to some degree of insensitivity. So when they talk about social inclusion, they're talking about the ability of an organization to broaden its scope of acceptance for the variations that exist in our society or the diversity. And that becomes problematic because if in an organization you start to get that group think based upon commonalities of culture, then anybody coming outside of that culture will feel excluded, and therefore you're not going to get the best effort from those individuals that sit on the perimeter or the peripherals of that organization. That helps,
Can I
Alex?
jump in? Could I jump in?
Yeah, yeah, you can.
All right. I work for Deloitte and Touche,
Uh-huh.
and they sent me up the road to deal with the the guy who owned the Long Circular Mall
Yeah,
at the very inception,
yeah,
and he was a racist bastard.
right. And
And I still had to
that's what
do.
we're
I
talking
still
about.
had
And
to
that
do
was
the audit. I still had to do the audit. You know,
uh-huh.
and his wife was very different to him. His wife was very nice. She bring out juice and food and all that kind of. But he was a racist bastard. He had no problem telling me that he don't like. You know what I mean? The fact
Yeah,
that
yeah, I know. Some
I'm
people
not a
are
pure, you know, and all that. So
yeah. I understand where and that in itself is part of the issues that we have to face. And the fortunate thing for you is that that hopefully wasn't the way in which Deloitte and Touche worked, but it was one of their clients. And unfortunately, your organization can't dictate to your client how to treat, how to behave in terms of because you're trying to keep them as a client, um, and therefore you don't want. So in the future, what would have happened was that Deloitte and Touche might have sent different people who may have been able to be more was it acceptable to that individual, pandering to that individual. It depends upon how badly they wanted to keep the business and that kind of stuff. But that type of activity really um, only end up it only ends up it just sweeps the problem under the carpet and doesn't really approach and make a difference in how it's done, or institution any sort of change in the organization. Because Deloitte and Touche could have said, listen, we're going to stop representing you if you treat our employees this way and that kind of stuff. That could be a wake up call. But would they do that? Would they risk losing that client to protect their employees? That speaks volumes to the employees if an organization is willing to give up an important client like that because of the unethical manner or way in which they dealt with people. That would speak a lot to that organization. Did they? Alex?
Hell no.
So you understand what I'm talking about in terms of some of those decisions are very difficult to make. All right, if that's the last question, I'd like to stop the recording and then we can treat with the other question that was brought up earlier. Any other questions or comments people want to make?
No, sir.
All right, cool. All right, so I'm stopping the recording now. Great job, guys. It was an excellent presentation.
It really was.